Hello, welcome back. Glad you could join me. Today I want to talk about Death's Detective, The Malachant Mysteries, Volume 1, by Charlotte E. English. Now, this particular book has 4 separate stories in it. The first is the Rostakov Legacy. The second is the Ivanov Diamond. The third is Mirlin's Ghost Circus. And Ghost Speaker is the fourth one. I keep moving my my camera because it keeps getting adjusted, and then I forget where I need to put my hand. Anyway, this is a very goth setting, and by goth I mean that it is set in a Russian-like country. I say Russian-like country because, one, the names. We have Rostakov, we have Ivanov. They're very much Russian sounding to me. Now, I could be wrong. It could be that they're a different Slavic origin than Russian. But anyway, that aside, it's very what you would, if you're old enough to have watched things like James Bond, GoldenEye, and some of the other ones, whenever they showed the Soviet Union, and this is obviously something that was portrayed for because of the Cold War, but it's very dreary. Even the lighting looked subdued in some of those shots in Russia. Anyway, the setting seems to be kind of Russian, and it's mostly, I mean, there's 4 novels in the first volume, and none of them seemed to be set in summer. They all seem to be set in winter or fall, where there was snow and it was cold and rainy, or something of that nature. There was ice on the ground. Maybe in some of the subsequent books, as this says, this is volume 1. Maybe some of them take place in the summer and it's different, but it very feels like it's trying to be Russian in the tone, and very goth in the sense of dark and foreboding and depressing. Anyway, the main character is Conrad Sevast. He is the Malachant. The god of death in this world is called the Malacht. And he has a secret agent that is hidden from the public, whose job it is to hunt down murderers who otherwise would go undetected and unpunished. Or at least according to the Malacht's sense of justice. So he was given certain abilities by his master, the god of death. And he has 2 familiars. They are serpents that are ghosts. They communicate to him and give him the information that the Malacht wishes him to know. He can also use them to bind souls. In the first novel, he is made aware of the death of Lady Rostakova. And he goes and finds her body, and he uses the spirits of these 2 serpents to bind her soul so he can ask it questions to try to find out who it was that killed her. It's interesting in some of the ways what he does. So, as I said, he tries to bind the soul, and this particular setting is such that some of the situations don't necessarily make sense. So he comes upon this murder scene, and he tries to bind the soul, but the soul doesn't really have a lot of cohesion, apparently, after it was murdered, and he doesn't get a straight answer out of it. Now, he being the servant of the god of death, the god of death is in charge of souls, it seems that a lot of times the souls that he is needing to contact or needing to converse with to find out information about their death and who killed them and all that stuff, they're beyond even the god of death's reach for some reason, which made no sense to me. Anyway, we have him. His cover is Gentleman of Leisure. He goes about the city. He has a relationship with the police, who take him at face value, just believe he's a man of leisure who takes the opportunity to alleviate his boredom by looking into suspicious deaths and things like that. So that's his kind of dual life, where he is the chosen servant of the god of death. And one of the things that apparently the god of death demands is that his servant, in order to mete out his brand of justice, he cuts open the victim of the murder and removes one of their ribs, and then he takes it and he sharpens it and uses that to kill whoever it was that was the perpetrator of the crime. Kind of gruesome, and it seems to me that wouldn't necessarily make a very good weapon. Like a straight bone might be more of a weapon to use. Maybe it's easier to extract a rib than it would be to extract, say, an arm bone or a leg bone or something like that. But he extracts a rib bone, and that is one of the telltale signs that the Malekith is working for the god of death, that he is on a case. The police come upon the body, find one of the rib bones removed, and the Malekith is on the trail. Which to me seems like it could be a rather obvious way to throw the police off your trail. If the police believe that the Malekith is going to mete out justice, maybe they give up on the case and move on. Now, obviously, that does run the chance that you run afoul of the god of death himself by using his servant's trademark, if you will. But I don't know. That's never actually explored in the books. Anyway, let me get back to it. There are a couple things, as I said, that to me didn't make sense, and this may be something more to do with Russians and Russian naming conventions. As I said, the first novel is called The Rostakov Legacy, and the person who is the victim in this instance is Lady Rostakova, or Lady Rostakova, however you want to pronounce it. And when she is killed and her successor, her heir, claims her title and her fortune, he is addressed by Rostakov, not Rostakova or Rostakova, however you want to say that. I don't... just looking at it, it seems that is the nature of maybe the Russian names. I just don't know, because people with the Russian-sounding names are arguably Conrad Sevast. His name is not very Russian-sounding, and indeed he says that he is from a different tribe of people in this world, that his complexion doesn't match those of the people in the city in which he lives. He's darker skin, dark hair, dark eyes. There is one lady in the book, Irinanda Felenia. Again, her name doesn't fit in with the Russian stuff. She is a frequent collaborator, a frequent colleague of Conrad's, and her complexion is very much more Nordic in description. She has very blonde hair, almost white blonde, very fair skin, blue-eyed, whereas the people in the city in which they live seem to be somewhere in between these two. And so maybe it's a naming convention that I'm just unfamiliar with in the Slavic languages. I do know that there are in many languages male and female versions of the same name. For instance, Mario and Maria, they're the same name. It's just O for the men and A for the women. So you have Mario as a man's name and Maria is a woman's name. And they have a lot of languages have that kind of thing. I don't know if that's the case here, where we have that A gets tacked onto the end if it's a woman's name and it gets dropped off if it's a man's name. But that could be it. Anyway, that is the first one. He goes after the lady's killer. In the Ivanov Diamond, there are 3 people who turn up dead, and he can't find their souls, which is something that is not normal, shall we say. In Maryland's Ghost Circus, they have a circus that is some of the performers in the circus are ghosts. Thus the Ghost Circus. During one of their performances, there's a body on the that gets discovered during the performance. The lights go out. When the lights come back up, there's a body in the middle of the circus. Ghost Speaker. There's a young woman. Conrad is having a party at his house, as he's forced to do because of the social conventions of being a man of means and leisure. And he finds a woman in his study. She was just wishing for a little bit of quiet. One of those social battery situations where it's run down. And later she turns up dead. And his master sends him on the case. Everyone thinks it's suicide, and the Malakt, the god of death, can't decide whether it was suicide or murder. Which again, it's rather weird that the god of death would not know. But anyway, there's a couple of in my mind. There's a couple of plot holes where, yes, we have a god who is not omniscient, who is, but the god should be omniscient in his sphere of influence. And in this situation where there was a death, any death, it should be less detective work than it actually is, in my opinion. The god of death should know the situation, should be able to summon the spirits of the dead. That's kind of his thing. There is a subplot that moves through the book, in that through the stories, I should say, that we don't know enough about Conrad's sometime colleague, Irinanda. She has her own secrets that she's keeping from him. We also have kind of a situation, again, in my mind, it doesn't necessarily make sense. But apparently Conrad has his emotions suppressed in order to do his job better. And they're suppressed by the god of death himself. It seems that this emotion suppression is situational. It's like we're led to believe, from what Conrad has said, that his emotions are suppressed except for fear, which anytime he is in the presence of his patron, he definitely feels that fear. but at the same time, it seems to be situational, where he has an emotional reaction that seems appropriate to the situation, right? It's not like he's going overboard, or his feelings are suppressed at that point. It feels like he's exactly where he should be. So it's a little bit, as I said, situational. It's not consistent as it should be. Anyway, I did enjoy reading Death Detective, and if I get the chance to read the second volume, I will do that. I don't know that I'll go out of my way to find it. I downloaded this for free from Google Books, and I do get a lot of ebooks that way. I subscribe to a service called BookBub that sends me emails periodically on deals on Google Books that might be fun for me to read. And so I got this one, and it seemed interesting, so I ended up downloading it. And it was interesting enough. I thought that while there were problems, they weren't problems that broke the book or broke the experience for me. There have been books where I have started reading them and abandoned them because I just couldn't stand it anymore. Robert Jordan, for instance, I read as much of the Wheel of Time series as I could possibly stand. I think I got to book 6. After that, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I started hating the characters and hated the experience of reading. So I abandoned that series. I will never go back to it. But this one, it did not give me that foul aftertaste. And so I think that if I do get the opportunity to read the second volume, I will. But I don't think I liked it enough that I'm dying for the next volume and I'm going to seek it out. Who knows? Maybe it'll get to the point where I want to figure out what goes on and how the series ends up. But that's it for now. If you've read Death Detective, let me know. Comment down below. If you've read any of the subsequent books in the series, let me know as well. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that other stuff. And until next time, enjoy what you're reading.